Desert Voice Media. You can visit desertvoice.media to learn more.
915 TALK.
The world is looking at El Paso.
What will we say to the world? From the KELP studio in El Paso, this is 915 Talk.
And now your host.
Good afternoon, beautiful citizens of the borderland. This is 915 Talk, and I am your host, Andy Frecca. We are broadcasting live from the heart of the world's largest borderplex here on this beautiful April 8th, year of our Lord 2025. Mac Daddy Del Norte on the board. How are you doing today?
What's up, Andy? I'm doing very good today.
Oh, you're doing very good.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you're doing very good because we once again are going to be learning about our borderland community today.
That is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a very special guest.
Okay, who might that be?
Well, it's someone who's super special. Do you know why they're special?
Nice. I do not know.
Well, we are faith-based radio, so we do believe that they are the unique expression of an endlessly creative God.
Yes.
But not just that, they are in city government.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice,
So
nice.
so Mac Daddy Del Norte, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
What district of El Paso do you live in?
I just moved, so that's something that I do have to learn.
Right.
To see what district it is.
So what district did you live in before you moved?
I believe Central Northeast.
Yeah. So what number is that?
2.
2. That is correct, Mac
Yes.
Daddy Del Norte.
Yes.
That's pretty good. I didn't expect you to know that much.
Hey, I'm learning every day.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
and that's why we're doing this program, because I think a lot of people are just living their lives. They don't know how to interact with the community outside of their work, study, or home relatives and all of that. But there's this whole world that we live in, and we're learning about it. So today we have in the studio the District 2 representative, your former representative.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a lifelong El Pasoan. He was born and raised in the 5 Points neighborhood and is a proud graduate of El Paso High School.
Ooh.
He has 4 degrees from UTEP.
Wow.
Yeah, I know,
Wow,
right?
that's impressive.
I feel like we just need to pause right there. 4 degrees from UTEP, including a doctorate in educational leadership. He's built a 14-year career in public service, serving at federal, county, city, and school district levels. Taking a breath because there's a lot more to say here. Before taking office in January 2024, Josh served 4.5 years on the EPISD Board of Trustees, where he championed transparency, secured historic teacher raises, and hired the district's first Latina superintendent. Wow. You know what, Mac Daddy Del Norte?
What's that?
I believe I hired the first Latino board guy at KELP. So I'm almost as close as our guest today. No, I don't know. Now, as District 2's voice on City Council, he's focused on revitalizing Central and Northeast El Paso, which I'm excited about. You know why?
No, I don't.
Because I am his constituent.
Oh.
I live in Central El Paso.
Sweet.
So I have a lot of unanswered questions that we're going to talk about today. He bringing in over $10 million for parks and neighborhoods in his first year alone. With a passion for community-oriented leadership, he's here to share his vision for El Paso's future. So wherever you are this beautiful afternoon, maybe out in Fabens, maybe you're up driving north on 54 out by Oro Grande, maybe you're 25 north on listening to 89.3 FM in Las Cruces. Wherever you are, let's give a very warm borderland welcome to the one, the only Representative Josh Acevedo. Representative Acevedo, welcome to 915 Talk.
Thank you for that warm introduction. That was awesome.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, well, I always envision my guests wearing a Lucha Libre outfit and then like smoke coming in, and we have this massive studio audience, and we're about to talk local city policy. And there comes in the city representative. But I'm super excited to talk today about Central El Paso, Northeast El Paso, your district, and then the city as a whole. Mm-hmm. But you grew up in the 5 Points neighborhood.
I did.
Yeah, so tell me, if someone has never been to the 5 Points neighborhood, why should they go there?
Well, I think we're seeing a big revitalization of 5 Points right now. So the 5 Points that I grew up in 20, 30 years ago is no longer the same. We are seeing some really great places coming up, like Morra Mia, that just opened a few months ago. Casa Pantera is there. And so it feels like it's the heart of El Paso, and I love representing that area.
So has it gotten better in the past 20, 30 years?
I would say so. I still remember going to Five Points Video when I was a kid, and Five Points Video.
Five Points Video.
Yeah.
What was this?
It's where Walgreens is.
Okay.
And so where Morra Mia is,
Right.
that was Walgreens. Then Walgreens moved across the street at the end of the 90s, and then Five Points Video moved across the street to where Ace Hardware is now.
Right.
And so we've seen a complete transformation, and there's a lot that's happening and is coming to the area. We're working on a project that is going to actually close part of Piedras for about a year, and that's coming next year.
Oh no! Oh no!
I know.
Why? Why are we doing this, Representative Acevedo?
So we're reconstructing the street.
Okay.
And that's a huge deal,
Right.
because it hasn't been touched in decades.
Wow.
Many decades. And so we are doing it as part of our Sun City Lights project, and we're going to have bigger sidewalks. We're going to have better road improvements, more walkability all around there, and then we're going to have a big sign that says 5 Points in a Pocket Park in front of the former Chilaquiles Buendia, which is turning into another restaurant at the time.
Okay.
And then we are also, in years from now, the police headquarters is going to get demolished. Because the police headquarters will be moving, and so that's going to be a big deal. Huge news, and so I think there's a lot of potential there.
Can you say where it's moving to?
Yeah, so this is part of the bond from 2019, the public safety bond, and that building used to be a Sears, and back in the day, like 50s, and it's in such bad shape, and we really needed to get our police better headquarters. So right now we have it in the Northeast. They'll be moving over there, and so those are the plans so far. And I want to start working with staff now to start working on ideas for what we do there. And I'm kind of hearing from constituents, we could do some housing, we could do a grocery store. We're really underserved with grocery stores throughout my district. Yeah, and that is such a perfect place to do it.
Right. Okay. So grocery stores, walkability, Piedra's shutting down. I mean, you have just come in throwing some haymakers. I mean, this
a little bit.
Yeah. So our district is changing.
Yeah.
Will it just be that area between the railroad tracks and I-10 that will be shut down?
So what's going to be shut down will be Piedras from Montana to Yandell. So it's a few blocks.
Okay.
So if you're coming south, like I do every single day, because I live off of Piedras,
okay,
you'll be able to turn right on Montana to access the freeway.
Oh, okay.
And so after that, you can't access it right where the police headquarters start, all the way down to Yandell.
Okay, so it's not quite as earth-shattering as the art craft project in West El Paso.
That's a whole nother project, yeah, for sure.
My daughter lives out in that area, and I said, good luck. You should move back to District 2. We have Representative Acevedo, and we don't have art craft.
We don't.
But good luck to the
But you do have Alejandra Chavez out there. She's awesome.
Yeah, and she was here on the program. We had a great time. Super sharp. Love what she's doing. Tell me about walkability.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
I think about Paso and the changes that have happened over time. This has been a very car-centric community. And being able to have good sidewalks, good places to just kind of walk by where we live, work, and play is a huge deal to people. And so when we start making our city more walkable, it's good for health. It's good for getting out of the house and just going on a walk. I'm fortunate to live near Memorial Park, and it's really nice to be able to access Memorial Park. Or, I even walk down Piedras to access one of the restaurants there and kind of hang out in that area. So it's been a real nice change that we have seen.
I feel like I could just do a whole radio program on walkable cities.
Yeah.
Before we went on air, I shared with you that I spent most of my adult life overseas. And it's interesting, whenever you go on vacation, or not you, but just in general, when people go on vacation, they generally go somewhere that's walkable. It could be, if they have the means, it could be Paris, or it could be Disney World, or it could be, a seaside town in, Florida or whatever. But all of those places are walkable, and you love it when you're on vacation. So why wouldn't you want that in your day-to-day life?
Exactly.
Yeah. and I think there's something very right about just seeing other people and saying hi and looking at their dog.
and I've been very lucky to be able to travel abroad, and I always leave each city that I've been to, whether it's Paris or London, Brussels, whatever it is. It's the city center is the beating heart of that city, and
Right.
you're walking around, you're accessing shopping, dining, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just normal.
Right.
And so I think sometimes there's what are we gonna do without our cars? But then once you see it in practice, it's a completely different mindset where you're like, oh well, I kind of want to go hang out over here and get some ice cream after I go to
Right.
dinner or something.
Yeah.
And walk the dog and bring the dog along and stuff like that. So it's a huge deal.
Yeah, 100%. And I think America in general has an automobile culture.
Yes.
And that was one of the big adjustments for me when I came back, just seeing you couldn't get anywhere without driving your car. My kids who were growing up abroad had never lived in America, went for a walk to find a place to buy, I don't know, some snacks, and they were kind of blown away. So I love that initiative. You're also passionate about parks, is that right?
Yeah.
So tell me, first of all, why?
So District 2 starts at the border and it ends at Hondo Pass in the Northeast. So
Right.
it is a giant district. And so it starts at South Central, goes to Central, and then half of the Northeast or so. Maybe
Okay.
a third of the Northeast. And so parks are a big deal to my constituents. And if you look at South Central, you have Modesto Gomez Park.
Okay.
And that park was built on a landfill years ago. And so there are a lot of challenges with that. And
Really?
over the last year, we've been working to see how we get that park finished because there was a lot of issues that happened with it in terms of funding and
Right.
COVID hit. And so
Being built on a landfill.
and being built on a landfill. And so how do you make sure that something that's been a park for so long is and a huge asset to that community
Right.
gets the life that it deserves? And
Yeah.
so we're gonna make sure to finish the park finally. It's been years,
Right.
since at least 2019 that we are looking through it, and we're gonna have the first turf fields in El Paso there. Two fields will be there. We already have the two baseball fields, and then we also have walking path. We're going to get benches. We're going to get trees. So it's a giant park. It's going to be a big deal. And then in Central, there's Memorial Park, which
Yeah.
really is such a beautiful place for Central El Paso.
Yeah.
And that is a park that had a master plan. The community revolted and they said, why are you going to add all these things to Memorial Park, like a dog park and a community center and a splash pad? We don't want that. We love our walkable park. All we want is more lights, more trees, the basics, and just take care of our park. And so we're
and a
preserving that.
convenience store right in the middle.
At oh no. Never.
I'm 100% joking. My wife and I walk around Memorial Park
Yeah.
more evenings than not.
Yeah.
Almost every evening.
It's
we
always
take a walk.
packed.
Yeah.
Playing
it's-
tennis or people just
yeah.
walking their dogs or walking
yeah.
around the park.
What do we have to do to get some pickleball courts in Memorial Park?
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think we can get some pickleball courts there because
Jack-
it's so much used for tennis.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I see some people cheating from time to time with their pickleball paddles. It's going to happen. I enjoy pickleball, so
I love pickleball.
Yeah,
It is very, very fun.
yeah. So love all of this. So what other park projects like in the Northeast are you looking?
So Grandview, we're working on seeing how we could get more trees on Central, and then of course in the Northeast we have Sunrise Park. We're working on fixing the bathrooms there. They were vandalized, and working through getting those open again, taking
There's
care of
bathrooms in the park.
Yes. And so we're working on
Memorial
reopening
Park
those.
only has the porta potties.
Yeah, and that
someday.
that's been a discussion that we've had around Memorial Park, whether we get the bathrooms or not. But it seems like more the community doesn't really want to see that. And I very community oriented, have
Right.
tons of community meetings to get feedback from people to make sure that I'm representing their voice on council.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
then in the Northeast, we're also getting Wainwright Park, which is at a former school. And so that project got delayed. And hopefully by the end of the year, beginning of next year, we're going to have that park fully established.
Okay. So I love all of this. I love that you're working to listen to the community. I'm not sure I actually want a full-on bathroom at Memorial Park, but
It's a hot topic, more than you would know.
Yeah, why does Northeast El Paso get one and Central doesn't? That's the only reason I want one.
Modesto Gomez is getting one. Brand new bathrooms too.
Wow. Wow, we are lagging behind Central El Paso. But I did ask on Facebook what questions would folks have. So we're going to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
The big question in El Paso, to me, it's almost like an impossible question, is taxes.
Yeah.
Property taxes. Yeah. And I think this question is related to that. Maybe not. But the question is, what can El Paso do to bring more well-paying jobs to the city?
That's a huge deal. And I believe that right now we have a strong council in place. This is a huge priority of the mayor. And for me, it is very personal because I have seen so many people leave this community because they can't find a job here, right? They go to UTEP or they go out of town to school. They want to come back to their community and live here and work here. And they find themselves in Dallas or in Austin or some other city in the country. And so I have been going against the grain in that sense, where I'm saying I've never left El Paso, lived here my whole life.
Right.
I want to make it here, and I want to improve the community to make sure that we are bringing those jobs. Right now, we have our taxes at a 70% property taxes from residential, 30% is commercial.
Right.
That is flipped in many other communities like Phoenix or Dallas or Austin.
Okay.
And so they are not necessarily feeling the hurt as much with their property taxes.
Right.
Because they've been able to get more commercial in. And what comes in with more commercial? Better paying jobs. One frustrating thing, I went to UTEP 4 times, like you said.
Yeah.
We educate all
4
these
times successfully.
engineers. Yeah, 4 times successfully, thankfully.
I think a lot of people go 4 times, but not always successfully.
Yeah, that's true. But I think you look at that, and we're having engineers, for example. We're educating engineers, and then we're sending them off to Boeing. And why can't they stay here? So aerospace is going to be a game changer for our community, and we're doing a lot with aerospace at the city and keeping more talent here and seeing how we can bring more people to El Paso. I think there's a lot of people that are just dying to come back. They've been gone for 10, 15 years, but it doesn't make sense financially. And so we need to make sure that we are attracting those companies. We are also making sure that we are providing a good quality of life for people, and that comes in the form of walkable cities, grocery stores, accessing good foods and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area.
Well, let me ask you, I 100% agree. Central El Paso, in my mind anyway, is 100% residential. There's not a whole lot of space for commercial. So when we talk about bringing jobs to the city, we're not talking about Central El Paso. We're really talking about the outskirts, at least everything I've heard. Is there like some initiative in Central El Paso that maybe isn't as big as, aerospace or something like that for bringing in businesses?
Well, I think that it's not necessarily always outskirts. I know there's stuff on the west side, right, and some stuff on the east side that's happening. But we also kind of look at downtown. It takes me about 7 minutes to get to City Hall.
Right.
So it's not very far from downtown. What can we do in downtown to bring more jobs in that area as well?
Yeah.
And I think where I have had a big kind of disagreement is when people say, well, Central can't afford to do this or do that. Mm-hmm. But then we have a very expensive restaurant that is very good, Casa Pantera, and it is always packed. It's impossible to get a reservation. And I think the El Pasoan mindset is we're going to go wherever we need to go. I find myself on the west side or the east side getting amenities. Why don't we have those amenities in Central?
Right.
Like, people will go to it. They want to have that close by. And so I think there's a lot of good opportunities throughout that. Yes, it has a lot of residential, but then we could have conversations about some stuff on Fort Boulevard or something on Alabama.
Right.
There's a lot of untapped potential on Alabama, and we're working on bringing a grocery store to Alabama with some developers at an old publishing house that has just been sitting vacant for years and crumbling. And so that'll be a game changer.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So we did a zoning change a few months ago, and it's looking good. And we're just kind of seeing if a grocery store could be there. But if we do a grocery store there, it's in the middle of Central and Northeast.
Right.
And that will be a game changer for people because, I love my Vista. I love getting my queso and stuff from Vista, but we also need to have access to other types of foods that are going to be legit grocery stores.
Well, I've become a little bit of a Central El Paso patriot. My wife grew up in West El Paso. And the furthest east she ever went was St. Clement's Church in downtown El Paso in her life. I'm exaggerating, of course, but that was kind of how she grew up. And then when we moved back, we were renting a house in Central close to Memorial Park, and we just love Central. It seems like it's a real El Paso. And, you know, you talked about Vista. Also, the main amenity is I can walk to Kiki's or Papa Eric's Hamburgers. I don't know if I need anything else.
Well, have you gone to the bakery in front of Kiki's, Azúcar?
I have not been there.
It's amazing. You should definitely check that out.
That's the new one, right?
It opened a few months ago. And
yeah,
I've been going there a lot.
Okay.
Azúcar Morena.
I feel I should not have learned that because now I will go, and I don't need any more sugar in my life. But
they
I'll
have
definitely give it a try.
Conchas filled with Nutella. They have like churro cookies filled with cajeta.
Oh no,
it's insane.
You should not have told me that, but Mac Daddy Del Norte just heard that as well. If you're just joining us, we're with El Paso District 2 Representative Dr. Josh Acevedo. We're talking all things El Paso, and I want to just say to our audience, you know, our audience is mainly church-going, faith-based folks. I love what Dr. Acevedo said, that he wants to invest in the city. We as the church also need to be doing the same. So love just these local conversations, learning about El Paso. This is your daily reminder that 915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. You can visit desertvoice.media to listen to all past 915 Talk conversations. We're going to go into a break. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
915 Talk is listener supported and is a production of Desert Voice Media. That's right. It's people just like you who make this program possible. Together with Desert Voice, you can learn how to better serve our neighbors and pray for our community. To become a Desert Voice Media partner, you can visit desertvoice.media. That's right. That's the website, desertvoice.media. Take a look and join us today in reaching our borderland for Christ.
Hey, this is Pastor Ricky Alcantad from Better News Radio right here in El Paso, Texas. And I want to extend a special invitation to you to join us on Easter Sunday. Our church, Cross of Grace, is going to be gathering in a special off-site service at McKelligan Canyon. We hope to fill up that amphitheater with people singing about and hearing about the good news of Jesus Christ. You can find more information on our special Easter service at crossofgrace.net.
915.
Testify.
I used to be a hardcore Catholic. I actually wasn't giving all praise and honor to God or Jesus Christ. I was worshiping the Virgin Mary, and little by little I started seeing things that were just not right. And it was by listening to your radio station. I would like to tell you how I came upon this station. I used to work for a concrete company, and we were working on 24-hour shifts, and my truck was assigned to somebody at night. So when I came in the morning, they changed all my stations. And so I had my stations already programmed. So I was changing it, and I came upon KLP. And so I left it there because they called me into dispatch to go get my ticket. And when I came back, I just kept listening to it. And if I never heard this radio station, who knows, I probably would have still been lost, still living in this darkness.
And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb
And by the word of their testimony.
KELPradio.com. We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you're listening to 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Freca. Today we're with El Paso District 2 Representative Dr. Josh Acevedo. Representative Acevedo, next question is, it really kind of exemplifies, I think, a big part of our, the tension that's in El Paso politically, because a lot of what we're facing as a community is not decided here in El Paso, it's decided on the federal level. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, like, how do we deal with that? And that's immigration. We had someone by the name of Alexis write in, their question was, given how the new immigration laws may significantly impact consumer spending, that's how they saw it, in the labor market, what strategies are in place to begin addressing El Paso's debt? So somehow they threw 3 different things into that question. But, my wife and I were out walking the other night, and we ran into an elderly gentleman who runs a business in central El Paso, and we just began chatting. Super nice man. And he said he came to El Paso in 1965. He's run a business all those years. And for our listeners, he's a churchgoer. He told us all about it. And he's never become legal in all those years. And I think a lot of families in El Paso have that kind of situation where there's this thing happening nationally, but there's at least someone in the family who has a situation with their paperwork. And so how does the local government deal with this kind of issue when really we don't have a say in federal policy? Let's start off with that.
Yeah, I think overall what needs to happen is a real fix at the federal level.
Okay.
And what I have kind of seen over the years is this has been a political football that is being tossed every 4 years to presidential elections. And there hasn't been anything passed in over 3 decades to address the issue. I think it's an issue that riles up people and they vote one way or another. And at the same time, we're talking about it 4 years later instead of just fixing it, and getting a bill passed and getting it signed into law.
Right.
And to stop with the rhetoric. I don't think rhetoric is necessarily going to fix it. It's going to be policy. And at the local level, what we have seen since I took office in 2024, over a year, the numbers have significantly dropped. And
which numbers?
With migrants being in El Paso.
Right.
That were coming through El Paso. So...
Yeah.
It's been,
sorry, over what time period?
Over the last year.
Okay, over the last year it has dropped.
Since I took office in January of 2024.
Okay.
And so there was an emergency ordinance that the city was doing. The data didn't really show that we needed to be doing that ordinance anymore. And so I voted it down. It was a little controversial. And then 3 months later, the city said, "Oh, we don't need this." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been saying this for the past 6 months, but cool."
Yeah.
And then we have dropped every emergency ordinance that we had. We had 2. The other one was just to access city resources, city staff to help with nonprofits that are doing this important work.
Right.
And so that one, we just stopped doing it in December.
So in some situations, so I'm trying to understand this. In some situations, the city is paying for what is really what's being decided on federal level. It's fallen on our lap. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
We were using federal funds.
Oh, okay.
The federal government was giving us funds.
Right.
Those funds ended at the end of last year, in December.
Right.
And so the numbers were also not really there the whole 2024. And so into 2025, the numbers are there in terms of being non-existent as well.
Right.
And so I had a meeting with the state troopers in Austin a few weeks ago, and it was really interesting to kind of hear their perspective because the state governor had asked them to do immigration stuff, and they were kind of over it. And they said, we don't want to do this anymore. The numbers are not there. We want to focus on other safety issues that we're there for. So I think really supporting our law enforcement in terms of dealing with public safety issues is a big deal. And we at the city are there to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe.
Right.
And so when we are taking away for other issues, which we don't at the city, we don't enforce immigration because that's, like you said, like a federal issue. And the governor in recent years has made it a state issue. But at the city, we need to make sure that our police are in neighborhoods, understanding who lives in that area, to have a good community relationship with police officers. So they do a tremendous job and pick up a lot of work and make sure that we have safety all across our neighborhoods.
Right. So speaking of safety, we do have Charlie One on the phone. Charlie One, what are you seeing out on the roads today?
Andy, before I get to the construction that's going on, I want to cover this. So this is in the valley. We have a crash. Loop 375 southbound lanes at Pan American. We have a crash here. This accumulating some traffic, thick traffic here because it's on the way to the bridge there. Loop 375 south and Pan American. That crash, and it's backing up the traffic to the North Loop area. So congestion there if you're going towards that bridge or towards the border highway. Also, another point of congestion that I see is I-10 West at Mesa, because here they still have that closure going on. I-10 West at Mesa with the left lane taken away. When you narrow it down like that, I see that bumper-to-bumper traffic right now going back to Osborne, almost to Southern Park. Again, that's I-10 West at Mesa with the left lane taken away, and you're in single file there back to almost Sutherland Park. So just keep that in mind. Another closure, one more I want to mention here, is Joe Battle southbound and Vista del Sol. We have the right lane taken away there for construction. And so, Andy, that's what's going on in traffic right now.
All right. Charlie One, tell our listeners about the Daily Menudo.
The Menudo. Every day, delicious. Got to try it there. Delicious menudo at Mi Perduta Cafe, 3120 Traywood. The Mexican place, of course. Variety there. The seafood, breakfast, lunch, and dinner specials. You have that choice. 9:35 Comida Corrida lunch special, 11 to 2. It's all there. Mi Perduta Cafe, 3120 Traywood. Andy, back to you.
Thank you, Charlie One. We'll talk later.
You bet.
And this is the moment where I would like to remind our listeners or thank KELP Impact Partner Caring Companions. If you have an elderly relative who needs some assistance at home, or you just need a break from time to time, and you want to keep your elderly relative or loved one at home, check out caringcompanionsep.com. Really good folks over there. If you just joined us, we're with El Paso District 2 Representative Dr. Josh Acevedo. We're talking the very difficult and touchy subject here in El Paso of immigration. And you were saying on the city level, the police are not here to enforce immigration; they're here to enforce safety. Mm-hmm. Did I understand that?
Yeah, public safety in our neighborhoods,
right?
And making sure that we are able to answer calls that people have at their homes or in their businesses,
right?
And making sure that there's some visibility out there so people can access our police officers. Right now, we are having a challenge with our 911 center and response times. So how can we get those response times lower?
Right.
We are having many police officers that will be hired by May to really address the shortage that we have in terms of police officers. So I think that'll help. But right now, what we're looking in terms of public safety is tier 1. You know, there might be a murder or something that is somebody needs really crucial medical attention. So those are tier 1, and then sometimes we have to wait on other issues, like maybe a car wreck that no one's injured, and so it takes a while to answer to that.
Yeah.
And so if we get to a better place with public safety, imagine adding immigration, if the numbers were there, because the numbers have not been there for over a year now.
Right.
That would take resources away from our neighborhood. So I think that needs to be our clear focus.
Right. Yeah. Understood. So the second part of Alexis's question on Facebook was about consumer spending in the labor market. This is another issue that's being decided on the federal level, but there's, I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's a little bit of turbulence in the markets in recent days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any talk as of yet how that will affect us locally?
I think we're really worried being on the border, being a port of entry, that we have a lot of trade going through here, right? And Mexico is one of our closest partners. And so when you put tariffs, which really are taxes, we should just call them taxes, on every country in the world,
right?
I think that is going to make
except for Russia.
Well, except for Russia. Yeah. But pretty much, I mean, I saw the whole list. But that makes it super volatile, right? And our stock market has been crashing, and we've been seeing some really lows and highs in one day.
Right.
And a lot of it might, like I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, that a tweet sent it to go up, and then it went back down when the White House said something else. So I think for me on a local level, I'm like, I love my avocados. What am I going to do? You know, are I'm going to pay $5 for one?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think, of course, everyone's feeling uncertainty, feeling concern, even fear. So, I mean, it will be interesting to see how this goes. It'll be interesting to see how city leadership kind of handles this, because it does look like we're going to have some challenging days ahead, regardless of how you see the tariffs, regardless of how you see that all of that policy. We do have some challenging days ahead.
Yeah, I do worry about, consumer spending,
Right.
having to make choices where it was just easy to spend money here or there, and now you're really thinking twice about those things. So, just from an economy perspective, we're seeing difficult times, and I also worry that we might get into another recession, and
Right.
we're seeing that through the taxes that are happening right now, and nobody likes taxes,
Right. Well, let's switch gears here for a moment. You were an EPISD trustee.
Yeah.
How does that affect how you view the city now as a city representative, or is there a connection there?
Yeah, I think there's a big connection. It was an easier learning curve once I got to the city because, local government kind of runs similarly in terms of posting meetings, how we take votes, how the agendas are posted, what you can do policy-wise. Over there, I had a superintendent that I oversaw and an auditor. Over here at the city, I oversee the city manager, city attorney, and the auditor. So there's a lot of similarities in that. I think the subjects are the only things that change.
Right. Okay. What do you see for EPISD? Are they doing well? Is there what are the challenges for them?
Well, I think that the school closures that happen are really impactful to the community, and I don't think that was the best course of action.
Okay.
There was a lot of talk about, if the closures don't happen, there's going to be a reduction in force, and I just didn't really buy that. And so what I see in EPISD, my dissertation for my doctorate was the school closures that happened 6 years ago.
Okay.
And there was no cost savings from those school closures. All those schools are still boarded up 6 years later. And now they closed 8 campuses, and they want to close more in the next year.
And no money has been saved? Is that what you're saying?
No money has been saved. You have to upkeep them. And so if you look at what the research says, the school closures that have happened across the country have never really saved money.
Wow.
And so I think that's a false pretense with the community. And what I am seeing at the city level now is that people are saying, you know what, I already had a school that was closed over here. For example, in Central, Bassett is closed. Now down the street, we're gonna have Rusk closed. So that is going to really gut neighborhoods because they're focal points, right? They're gathering places. Obviously, kids get educated there, but there's community meetings. There's a lot of community that is built at these places.
Of course.
And so we need to find another way, right? And they always said it was difficult to get there, but we made it a priority in the 4 budget cycles that I did there. And every year they would say, we're losing 1,000 kids this year. That's equivalent to $20 million. And it's because people are not having kids like they used to. So then in my head, I said, okay, well, if you're telling me you're going to lose 1,000 kids equal to $20 million, what are you doing to keep some of those kids here? Because I understand birth rates. That's a reason, but what is the plan of action for this? And so I always thought that programming was a big deal. We got a report in my last year in office that said 2,000 kids had left the district because they did not want to be there.
Wow.
So they went to neighboring school districts. They went to charter schools.
Oh, wow.
And so they're looking for programming specifically. And so if we could imagine we would have kept half of the 2,000 kids, we would have kept $20 million. And we wouldn't be having this deficit. Another thing is 95% attendance rate is a pretty good standard. EPISD has been at 90% for years.
Wow.
And so working on a plan to get that's millions of dollars that are left on the table because funding from the state comes from people in seats, from kids being in seats every single day. And so attendance is a big deal. So how are we tackling that?
Right.
And then now we have a lot of vacant property. So they said within 5 years, we're going to tackle these vacant properties. And they want to go out for a bond in November. And so I said, go out for a bond and consolidate these schools. You can still close them, but then offer something else to parents and families that are taking their kids to school. And so I think they've lost community trust at this point by doing the school closures before the bond instead of doing it with the bond. I feel that the community is going to reject the bond, and the bond is very needed.
Wow.
But you have to have community trust.
Yeah, well,
you can't lose public trust.
Yeah, last week we had a teacher in from Socorro Independent School District, a different part of the city, not related to your district or EPISD, but they're really going through it over there as well. Sounds like similar issues. 300 teachers probably won't have their contracts extended at the end of the year, from what I understand. It's quite the challenge ahead of us. Is there a fix to this? You're saying programs.
I think programming, where you're looking at my colleague on the board led the efforts to bring the first Montessori. Her name's Leah Hanani, right? And she brought Montessori into Central El Paso at Palmoreno.
Okay.
There was a large waiting list. Everybody wanted Montessori programming.
Right.
And so that just showed me that if you bring a lot more programming, you're going to have people from all over the city that are able to participate in school choice because they have transportation, right?
Right.
That's not prohibitive, going into the programming that they want. And so I also believe that the state has really held hostage a lot of funding that can come into public schools. And that is also really hindering school districts. They were promising more money in the basic allotment 2 years ago. That didn't happen. There's talk about increasing the basic allotment as well for kids being in school this year and what's happening at the state right now, but I'm not sure. But then you're also seeing, a big push for vouchers.
Right.
And so that's also going to be really harmful to communities. I had a conversation when I was at the Capitol a few weeks ago with one of the staffers for a representative that is going to support the vouchers. And he said, well, we're supporting this because this is not a big deal for our community. We have 2 private schools and they're at capacity, so they're not going to get any kids. And so we're just going to support it. And I'm like, but we have a lot of capacity for private schools all over, right? And that's going to start dismantling public education in that sense. And so I see it as also a lot of these private schools, they don't need to take you. If they don't want to take you, you're there on privilege, right? And so what are we doing with the public school system instead of doing that? And I think if you look at what happened with No Child Left Behind at the beginning of the 2000s, that was a way to reform schools. We're going to have vouchers. We're going to have school closures. We're going to have charter schools. And not much has changed in that in that time, right? There was more focus on testing because we want to make sure that there's some accountability in that sense. But I think each community is different and each school is different. So if we are giving people the resources that they need in their communities, that'll be a big deal for them.
Yeah, I interviewed the chair of the Texas Private Schools Association a few weeks ago. They're, of course, pushing for vouchers. They were saying it was $1 billion allotment. It's not going to affect public schools, but you're saying it will affect the funding.
No, it will, because if you think about it, this is the easiest way to explain it. You have a classroom of 22 students, and then 5 of them leave to a charter school or to a private school with their voucher, and now you have 17 kids in that classroom. So that's less money going into that classroom.
Okay.
Because those 5 kids left, because now that average daily attendance that funds those schools is less money coming from the state.
Yeah, that was different than the impression she gave me, but it is an interesting conversation. It looks like it's going through.
Oh, it absolutely will pass.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's one of those things. It'll be interesting to see how it does affect the community, how we can personally, I can't be completely objective on this, as my wife is very involved in a private school. Yeah. My kids go to private school, but I 100% believe the public schools need to strengthen, and the private schools do as well. And how do we do that in a fair way? So,
and I don't think this is about being anti-private school. I think it's fine for private schools to exist, but it's the scam that the voucher system lets people believe that they're going to be able to go to whatever school they're going to want.
Right.
But when you think about it, a private school might not even have capacity at the levels. Like, I don't know if Bradford can handle 1,000 kids. It's a small school. Where are they going to build? Yeah. Maybe they could get like 50 kids at that point. Yeah. But how are they going to pick? Right?
Most of the private schools I know cannot take on too many more.
No, and that's the thing. But the amount of kids that they will be able to take if they take the vouchers, if they admit them, that's less money going into the public school system.
Right. Yeah, a lot to unpack here. If you just joined us, we are with El Paso District 2 Representative Dr. Josh Acevedo, talking all things El Paso. We've learned a lot of things. Most importantly, that Piedras is going to be shut down for a while.
Starting next year.
Yeah, we're going to make Central more walkable. We're going to bring some grocery stores, working on the parks. The public restrooms at parks is a big community conversation. I love it. Again, 915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. To listen to all of these conversations, visit desertvoice.media. We're going to go into a break. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
Are you looking for a Bible teaching church on the west side of El Paso? This is Terry Gray, pastor of Calvary Chapel Sun City and speaker on the Summons broadcast, heard each weekday at 5 p.m. here on this station. Calvary Chapel Sun City is located at 960 West Borderland Road on the west side of El Paso. We hold services on Wednesday evenings at 7 and on Sunday mornings at 9 and 11. You can find out more information about us on the web at www.ccsuncity.org. The Lord bless you, my friends. Hey, KLP listeners, this is Pastor Terry Gray of Calvary Chapel Sun City on El Paso's west side. I want to invite you to join me at a new time at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday right here on KELP. If you're driving home at 5 p.m. or doing work around the house or getting your evening started, I invite you to join me as we go through the Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. There is nothing more valuable than the Word of God, so let's invest our time in learning more about it together each day. That's our Bible study program, Summons, each weekday at 5 p.m. right here on KELP.
We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you're listening to 915 Talk. Love these community conversations. We need to learn more about what's really happening in our community. And today we've had Dr. Josh Acevedo, El Paso District 2 representative in the studio. Wide-ranging conversation. But in these final minutes, Dr. Acevedo, I think we need to initiate you into a 915 Talk tradition.
Okay.
So we are faith-based radio, and we so we believe in right and wrong answers.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you a list of just rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
And if you answer wrong, we are faith-based radio, so we'll try not to be too judgmental. We're not always successful within that area, but we'll do our best. So without further ado, Mac Daddy Del Norte, cue up the lightning round. So, Dr. Acevedo, El Paso District 2 representative, we want to talk about the first question has to do with possibly the most controversial subject in El Paso, in the borderland. It's a culinary question. It's a question you're asked when you go out to eat. The question is red or green?
Green.
That is correct. Come back, Daddy. There we go.
Sorry, I had some technical
Yeah,
issues.
there we go. All right. Dr. Acevedo, where is your favorite place to answer that question?
Oof, that's hard. For enchiladas, I do love Kiki's.
Oh, Kiki's. I like Kiki's. Yeah, yeah, there we go. All right. All right, next question. Let's say you have an out-of-town guest visiting you. They're a very special guest. And you want to impress them with your hometown of El Paso. You grew up around the 5 Points neighborhood, so you definitely want to impress them. And so you don't put them up in a Motel 6 like you normally would. You have them at your home. You're just trying to make everything exactly right. Where is one place you would take them that's not a restaurant?
It's not a restaurant. Okay. Well, I would probably say if they're staying close to where I live, I would definitely start at Memorial Park and then head over to McElligan Canyon.
Love it. Love it. There. You know, it's not a competition, but you're doing pretty well. Alejandro Chavez also did pretty well. So far, so good.
2 for 2.
Yeah. All right. So downtown El Paso. I think this is going to be way too easy for you. But downtown El Paso, the plaza, the Central Plaza, has a statue in the middle. What's the statue of?
Oh, the alligators.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yes. Of course, it's the alligators. You don't get applause for that one. Come on, Baghdadi. That's just a given. I'm just setting up the question. How many alligators are in that sculpture?
Is it 4?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Cue up the applause.
Yeah. And so the running joke is you're actually might be the first person to get that question right.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was telling everyone for months that it was 3.
Oh.
And then I was out walking around downtown with my wife one evening, and we're walking around the plaza, which we enjoy doing. Love what's happening downtown. And I look, I'm like, oh no, I've been telling everyone on air that it's 3 for months, and maybe making fun of a little bit people who did not get 3 right. It wasn't 3 the whole time. It was 4. You're
hilarious.
You're absolutely right. So, final question of the lightning round. If you could snap your fingers and change one thing about El Paso or improve one thing about El Paso, what would that thing be?
April weather.
April weather?
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I tell people, El Paso, I love it. There's a lot of work to do, but the worst time of the year is April because of this dust and winds.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the only bad thing about El Paso.
Maybe if we made Doppler Dave or Robert Bettis part of the city council, we could maybe somehow address those issues.
I mean, Doppler Dave is counting how many gust storms we've had, and we're over 22 at this point.
Yeah, we're
over the average.
Yeah, we're over the average for the year already this year. I will say on a personal note that the first thing that blew my mind about El Paso is the heat when I moved here. But now I'll happily take the heat as long as there's not the wind.
Yeah. And the dirt that you're eating.
Yeah. So where do you see El Paso in 5 years? What changes? What's your vision?
We have a really good opportunity right now. There's a lot of momentum behind the city council that just took office in January. Mm-hmm. And we really need to focus on economic development. What does that even mean, right? Bringing more opportunities to El Paso, helping the taxpayer with taxes through economic development. Mm-hmm. There's been a big project that has been talked about. We're going to talk about it next week in City Council on the Deck Plaza and what that looks like. And
the
Deck Plaza.
Okay.
Which is going through downtown. There's an expansion project of the freeway.
Okay.
That is happening.
Oh yes. Okay. Gotcha.
And it's putting a park on top of it. Right. And for me, I'm looking at it in 2 ways. The expansion is going to happen through the state. And if we're able to find the resources and make this project happen, it'll be a big deal because then we're not just going to have another boring freeway going through a city, right? We'll have a place to gather. There's housing opportunities. There's more green. there's a lot of potential that we can bring there to start helping us reduce taxes in terms of more commercial opportunities rather than residential.
Right. Love it. Love it. And most of our audience is somehow active in their churches, religious audience, Christian. What would you like to see from the churches?
There's a big role, and just this last week we had a really big meeting in Northeast El Paso, and we have been working on some stuff happening in the Angels Triangle, and there's been a lot of people that are unhoused that live in that area, and we had a few of them at our meeting, and they were kind of saying we would love some structure. So how can we bring in the faith community into that to provide some structure to have places to gather and stuff like that? I think there's always a seat at the table. We're working with one of the churches in the Northeast to have an art project in front of them on a little tiny pocket park.
Very cool.
And so I think there's always that sense that we can partner and see how we do some good work together.
Yeah, love it. And my word of encouragement to the audience is let's get more involved in the local community. We've been today with El Paso District 2 Representative Dr. Josh Acevedo, talking all things El Paso, Central El Paso, Northeast, and even downtown and beyond. There's so many other topics we could start to unpack today, but we're running out of time. Really appreciate you coming by today.
No, thanks for having me. That went by really fast. This was really fun. Enjoyed it a lot.
Great. Always love to hear that it was not painful.
No, not at all. Lots of laughs.
Yes, love it. And as we always say at the end of this broadcast, let's learn to love our city, love our neighbor, and give God all the glory. This has been 915 Talk. You have been listening to 915 Talk, a production of Desert Voice Media. In order to listen to previous editions of 915 Talk, just visit desertvoice.media. Let's learn together to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory.